So think about 1965, just for a second. The sound of, the sound of everything.
Well,
If you turn on the radio, you were getting hit with a really specific kind of energy.
oh, absolutely. You had Motown, which was just so polished and perfect.
Right. And then you had the whole British invasion, all that electric jangle. It was loud, it was exciting, and structurally it was pretty rigid. I mean, we're talking about music built on very Western foundations.
Blues progressions, 44-time melodies that always resolved neatly. It was a revolution, for
Yeah.
sure, but a revolution operating within a very tight set of musical rules.
3 chords, a verse, a chorus, fade out.
Exactly.
And it feels like it came out of nowhere. That whole formula just gets hacked. You're listening to a pop record, and suddenly there's this drone, this buzzing metallic
The
sound.
shimmer, yeah.
And it doesn't just sit on top of the music. It feels like it's cutting through from a totally different dimension.
That sound. That is the sound of what our source for today calls the Great Sitar Explosion.
It's such a dramatic title, isn't it? The Great Sitar Explosion makes it sound like fireworks. But the source material we're diving into, it's called the Raga and the Rock, Harrison's Eastern Awakening. It argues this wasn't just a trend.
No.
It wasn't just about finding cool new sounds. This was a fundamental rewiring of the musical brain.
And that is such a crucial distinction. We often look back at the 60s through this lens of, fashion, paisley shirts, incense.
It's a hippie aesthetic.
Right, the whole aesthetic. It's so easy to dismiss it as just exoticism. But this source argues that for one person in particular, for George Harrison, this was an intellectual demolition project.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to peel back the layers of what is, I think, arguably the most important friendship in rock history. The bond between George Harrison and the Indian classical maestro Pandit Ravi Shankar.
And we have to get into the mechanics of it. Because you can't really understand this shift in 60s culture without understanding the shift in music theory that happened right here.
We're going to talk about how a specific musical interval, the minor second, moved from, the classical stages of India all the way to the top of the Billboard charts.
And how it just completely altered the emotional palette of Western pop music.
Okay, so we have the Great Sitar Explosion. It's kicking off around 65. The source says this is the moment the sitar suddenly became the cool new toy for Western bands.
It was the flavor of the month. The Rolling Stones used it, the Yardbirds.
It was everywhere.
It was everywhere. And Ravi Shankar, in the source, actually expresses some frustration about this period. He saw the sitar being treated like a prop.
Like an accessory.
Exactly. You hold it for a photo shoot, you strum it on a track to make it sound psychedelic, and then you put it away.
Yeah.
It was, for the most part, completely superficial.
Except for Harrison. And this is really where the story pivots. You have George Harrison, one of the 4 most famous people on the entire planet. He's trapped in the eye of the Beatlemania hurricane. And then you have Ravi Shankar, who comes from a world that is just diametrically opposed to pop stardom.
Oh, opposed is the right word. Shankar's world was one of ancient discipline. I mean, the Indian classical tradition is oral. It's passed down from guru to shisha,
Teacher to student.
teacher to student over lifetimes.
Yeah.
It requires absolute, total dedication. You don't just learn a song. You learn a system of sound that is believed to be sacred.
The source really emphasizes this unlikely friendship. But it wasn't. It wasn't really a friendship, was it? Not at first. It was more like a plea for help.
It was. Harrison was completely disillusioned. He'd achieved everything a musician is supposed to want, the fame, the money, the adoration, and he just felt empty. He heard something in Shankar's music that sounded like clarity.
Which leads us to the narrative anchor of this whole deep dive, the escape. The source details this incredible moment where George Harrison realizes he can't learn this music in London.
He can't.
He can't learn it while being a Beatle, so he goes to India. But he can't just, walk through the airport.
No way. If George Harrison walks through an airport in 1966, the airport shuts down. It's a riot. So he has to travel in disguise.
I just love the visual of this. The source doesn't give us like a police sketch or anything.
No detailed description, though.
Right. But you can just imagine it, a Beatle stripping away the haircut, the clothes, the whole identity. He has to physically erase George Harrison to get where he needs to go.
And that disguise is the perfect metaphor for what happened musically. He wasn't just hiding his face. He was trying to silence his ego.
Oh, that's a great point.
In the Western rock tradition, the guitarist is the guitar god. It's all about flash and volume and dominating the stage. Harrison went to India to sit on the floor, barefoot, and be told he knew nothing.
I mean, that's a heavy thing to accept when you have #1 hits all over the world.
And the source says Shankar made it crystal clear. He said, if you want to learn, You start from scratch.
And scratch meant forgetting everything he knew about Western music theory.
He had to unlearn the guitar to learn the sitar. And this is where we get into that first major concept from the text, the raga.
Okay, and this is where I think a lot of us get tripped up. Even music fans who know a thing or two, we often think of a raga as just an Indian scale.
Right.
You know, we have major and minor, they have ragas. But the source is really specific that this is a huge misconception.
It's a massive oversimplification. A scale, in the Western sense, is a ladder of notes. It's structural material you use to build chords and melodies. But Shankar defined a raga to Harrison as a melodic personality.
Melodic personality. It's such a distinct way to frame sound.
It changes the relationship completely. If a scale is just a tool, you control it. But if a raga is a personality...
You have to get to know it. You have to respect it.
Exactly. The source quotes Shankar, saying that a raga is designed to color the mind.
Let's dig into that phrase, color the mind. It sounds poetic, sure, but in the context of the 60s, that connects to something much bigger happening in the culture, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Right.
Think about the shift in how people were consuming media. In the early 60s, it was all about the single, a 3-minute burst of energy.
High sugar, quick fix.
Exactly. But if you embrace this idea of a raga, a piece of music that can unfold over 30, 40, even 60 minutes, designed to sustain a specific psychological state, you are paving the way for the album era.
Wow, that is a fascinating connection. So you're saying the concept album, the idea of sitting down and listening from start to finish to really inhabit a mood, that might actually have its roots in this Indian classical philosophy.
I think the source makes a very strong case for it. Coloring the mind implies immersion. It implies the listener isn't just tapping their foot, they're having their internal geography altered. Harrison realized that music didn't have to be a story about boy meets girl.
It could be an environment you step inside.
He's moving from storytelling to soundscaping. And to achieve that coloring, to create those specific complex moods, he couldn't just use the standard major chords of early Beatles tracks. He needed a new tool.
Which brings us to the minor second. The source highlights this specific interval as the technical bridge between East and West. And for anyone listening who isn't a music theory major, let's be careful here. This isn't about obscure math.
No, not at all. It's about a feeling.
It's a feeling.
Right. Forget the piano keys for a second. Think about the movie Jaws. That theme, do and done, that little jump between the first note and the second note, that is a minor second.
It's so tight, it's claustrophobic.
It is the sound of immediate tension. It's the smallest possible gap between two notes in our system. And in 1964 pop music, you almost never lingered on a minor second. It sounds wrong to Western ears.
Dissonant.
Dissonant, yeah. You might use it as a passing note to get to a happy note, but you don't live there.
But in Indian classical music, in these ragas Harrison was studying, that interval is a feature, not a bug.
Oh, it's a primary color. It's used to express longing, devotion, kind of sweet sadness. Harrison started to realize that if he wanted to color the mind with more complex emotions, introspection, doubt, spirituality, he had to import that tension into rock.
Okay, so let's look at the evolution here, because the source points out it didn't just happen overnight. You have a song like Norwegian Wood. That's usually the one people point to as the start of it all.
And Norwegian Wood is a brilliant song, but from a theory perspective, it's still Western folk pop. Harrison is playing the sitar, yes, but he's playing it like a guitar. He's just doubling the melody. It's texture.
It's the disguise on the surface.
It's the disguise, exactly. But the body underneath is still John Lennon writing a folk song.
But then you fast forward just a little bit to a track like Love You Too from Revolver. That feels totally different.
Love You Too is the breakthrough. That is where the minor second takes over. Listen to the vocal melody. Harrison is singing these sliding semitone runs. He's refusing to resolve the tension in the way a pop song should.
The drone is constant.
It's constant. He's not using the sitar to decorate the song. The sitar is the structure of the song.
And it's not just the sitar songs, is it? The source argues this theory bled into his guitar work too. I mean, look at Taxman.
Yes, Taxman is a perfect example. It's a rock song, heavy electric guitar. But listen to that solo. It's aggressive, it's jarring, and it is full of those wrong notes. It uses that minor second friction to create this sense of anxiety and biting satire.
That is not the blues scale anymore.
No way. That is the melodic personality of a raga applied to a Fender Stratocaster.
So he took the lesson from the sitar, that tension is a tool for coloring the mind, and applied it to the loud, electric world of rock.
He normalized dissonance. Before this, pop music was generally about consonance harmony, things fitting together nicely. Harrison, through Shankar's influence, taught the Western ear to enjoy the friction, to find beauty in the unresolved.
It goes right back to that image of the disguise. To find this new sound, he had to disguise his Western instincts. He had to suppress the part of his brain that just wanted to resolve the melody to a happy major third.
He had to be willing to make the listener a little uncomfortable. And that is a risky move for a pop star. But because he did it, he opened the door for everything that came after. You don't get the darkness of heavy metal or the complexity of prog rock or even the moodiness of grunge without someone first proving that a brooding, tense mood could sell millions of records.
And that connects the great Sitar Explosion back to something so substantial. It wasn't just that everyone bought a sitar.
No.
It's that everyone started listening for that complexity. The mission we talked about at the start, how this friendship altered the DNA of rock, it's really about maturity.
It is. It's the moment rock and roll grew up. It stopped being just about the external world of cars and girls and started exploring the internal world. And the internal world isn't always major scale and happy. It's complex. It's full of minor seconds.
And humility. Humility was the key. We keep coming back to that. The source really emphasizes that none of this happens if Harrison doesn't sit on the floor. If he acts like a rock star in India, he learns absolutely nothing.
That's the takeaway for me. Innovation so often requires a moment of surrender. You have to admit that your current toolkit just isn't enough. Harrison admitted that Western pop couldn't express the spiritual things he was feeling, so he humbled himself to learn a new language.
And that language, the language of melodic personality and coloring the mind, it's still with us. Even if people aren't playing sitars anymore, the idea that a track should manipulate your psychological state is completely standard now.
Oh yeah. We have playlists for focus, for sleep, for motivation. We are constantly curating the color of our own minds.
We are. We treat music as a utility for consciousness regulation.
Which is a direct lineage from that Raga philosophy, even if we've stripped away the spiritual discipline that Shankar insisted on.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Raga and the rock, I want to leave you with a thought that really lingers on that concept of personality.
It's a provocative idea to end on.
If Ravi Shankar was right, if a piece of music, a song, is a personality that dyes your thoughts, that literally changes the color of your mind while you listen. Just think about what you've been listening to this week.
Yeah, that makes you look at your Spotify Wrapped a little differently.
It really does. What personalities are you inviting into your head for hours a day? Are they anxious? Are they aggressive? Are they purely commercial? And the big question becomes, if you are what you eat, are you also what you hear?
If the music is coloring your mind, you might want to check the palette.
Something to mull over before you hit play on the next track. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.